Honorable Minister, yes, please. Please cooperate with me. Please cooperate. सभी को से बात करें. I am sorry. Nothing will go on record. I am sorry. Only minister statement. Please, this is not correct. Please, this is not the way. Please. Minister. Please.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on this auspicious day of Vasant Panchami, I rise to present a budget for 2017-18. Spring is a season of optimism. I extend my warm greetings to everybody on this occasion. Madam Speaker, our government was elected amidst huge expectations of the people. The underlying theme of countless expectations was good governance. The expectation included burning issues like inflation and price rise, corruption in day-to-day transaction, and crony capitalism. There was also an expectation from a major change in the way the country's natural resources were allocated, processed, and deployed. In the last 2.5 years, it has been our mission to bring a transformative shift in the way our country is governed. We have moved, Madam, from a discretionary-based administration to a policy and system-based administration. From favoritism to transparency and objectivity in decision-making. From blanket and loose entitlements to targeted delivery, and from an informal to a formal economy. Inflation, which was in double-digit, has been controlled. Sluggish growth has been replaced by high growth, and a massive war against black money has been launched. We have worked tirelessly on all these fronts and feel encouraged by the unstinted support to the people by our initiatives. The government is now seen as a trusted custodian of public money. I take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the people of India for their strong support. We shall continue to undertake many more measures to ensure that the fruits of growth reach the farmers, the workers, the poor, the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes, women and other vulnerable sections of our society. Our focus will be on energizing our youth to reap the benefits of growth and employment. Madam Speaker, I am presenting this budget when the world economy faces considerable uncertainty in the aftermath of the major economic and political developments during the last 1 year. Nevertheless, the International Monetary Fund estimates that the world GDP will grow by 3.1% in 2016 and 3.4% in 2017. The advanced economies are expected to increase their growth from 1.6% to 1.9% and emerging economies from 4.1% to 4.5%. As per the current indications, macroeconomic policy is expected to be more expansionary in certain large economies. Growth in a number of emerging economies is expected to recover in 2017 after relatively poor performance in 2016. There are positive signs and point to an optimistic outlook in the next year. There are, however, three major challenges for emerging economies. First, the current monetary policy stance of the United States Federal Reserve to increase the policy rates more than once in 2017 may lead to lower capital inflows and higher outflows from emerging economies. Second, the uncertainty around the commodity prices, especially that of crude oil, has implication on the fiscal situation in emerging economies. It is, however, expected to increase, if any, in the oil prices would get tempered by quick response from the producers of shale gas and oil. This would have a sobering impact on the prices of crude and petroleum. Third, in several parts of the world, there are signs of increasing retreat from globalization of goods, services and people as pressures for protectionism are building up. These developments have the potential to affect the exports from a number of emerging economies, including India. Amidst all these developments, India stands out as a bright spot in the world economic landscape. India's macroeconomic stability continues to be the foundation of our economic success. CPI inflation declined from 6% in July 2016 to 3.4% in December 2016 and is expected to remain within the RBI's mandated range of 2 to 6%. Favorable price developments reflect prudent macroeconomic management, resulting in higher agricultural production, especially in pulses. India's current account deficit declined from about 1% of the GDP last year to 0.3% of the GDP in the first half of 2016-17. Foreign direct investment increased from 1,07,000 crores in the first half of last year to 1,45,000 crores in the first half of 2016-17. This marks an increase of 36% despite 5% reduction in global FDI inflows. Foreign exchange reserves have reached $361 billion as on 20th January 2017, which represents a comfortable cover of about 12 months of imports. The government has also continued with the steady path of fiscal consolidation without compromising on public investment requirements of the economy. Externally, the economy successfully weathered a number of shocks: the redemption of the FCNR deposits, volatility from the US elections, and the Fed rate hike. According to the IMF, India is expected to be one of the fastest growing major economies in 2017. A number of global reports and assessments over the last 2 years have shown that India has considerably improved its policies, practice, and economic profile. These are reflected in the Doing Business report of the World Bank, World Investment Report 2016 of the UNCTAD, Global Competitiveness Report of 2015-16 and 16-17 of the World Economic Forum, and several other reports. India has become the 6th largest manufacturing country in the world, up from the 9th position previously. We are seen as an engine of global growth. In the last 1 year, our country has witnessed historic and impactful economic reform and policy making. In fact, India was one of the very few economies undertaking transformational reforms. There are two tectonic policy initiatives, namely the passage of the Constitution Amendment Bill for the GST and the progress for its implementation, and the demonetization of the high denomination bank notes. The advantages of the GST for our economy in terms of spurring growth, competitiveness, indirect tax simplification, greater transparency have already been extensively discussed in both houses of Parliament. I thank all members of both houses for having passed the Constitution Amendment unanimously. I also thank the state governments for resolving all the relevant issues in the GST Council. Demonetization of high denominational banknotes was a continuation of a series of measures taken by our government during the last 2 years. It is a bold and decisive measure. Yes. For several decades, tax evasion for many had become a way of life. This compromises the larger public interest and creates an unjust enrichment in favor of the tax evader to the detriment of the poor and the deprived. This has bred a parallel economy which is unacceptable in an inclusive society. Demonetization seeks to create a new normal wherein the GDP would be bigger, cleaner, and real. The exercise is a part of our government's resolve to eliminate corruption and black money, counterfeit currency, and terror funding. Like all reforms, this measure is obviously disruptive as it seeks to change the retrograde status quo. Drop in economic activity, if any, on account of currency squeeze during the remonetization period is expected to have only a transient impact on the economy. I am reminded here of what the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, had said: a right cause never fails. Demonetization has a strong potential to generate long-term benefits in terms of reduced corruption, greater digitization of our economy, increased flow of financial savings, and greater formalization of the economy, all of which would be eventually lead to higher GDP growth and tax revenues. Demonetization helps to transfer resources from the tax evaders to the government, which can use these resources for the welfare of the poor and the deprived. There is early evidence of an increased capacity of banks to lend at reduced interest rates and a huge shift towards digitization amongst all sections of society. We firmly believe that the demonetization and the GST, which were built on the third transformational achievement of our government, namely the JAM vision, will have an epoch-making impact on the economy and the lives of our people. Madam, we are at an important point in the path of our growth and development. इस मोड़ पर घबरा के न थम जाइए आप, जो बात नहीं है उसे अपनाइए आप, डरते हैं नई राह पे क्यों चलने से, हम आगे आगे चलते हैं, आइए आप. The pace of remonetization has picked up and will soon reach comfortable levels. The effects of demonetization are not expected to spill over to the next year. Thus, IMF, even while revising India's GDP forecast from 2016 downwards, has projected a GDP of 7.2 and 7.7% in 2017 and 18 respectively. The World Bank, however, is more optimistic and has projected a GDP of 7% in 2016-17, 7.6% in 17-18, and 7.8 in 18-19. This pickup in our economy is premised upon the policy and determination to continue with economic reforms, increase in public investment in infrastructure and development projects, and export growth in the context of an expected rebound in the world economy. The surplus liquidity in the banking system created by demonetization will lower the borrowing costs and increase the access to credit. This will boost economic activity with multiplier effects. The announcements made by the Honorable Prime Minister on the 31st of December 2016 addresses many of the key concerns of our economy at this juncture, such as housing for the poor, relief to the farmers, credit support to the MSMEs, encouragement to the digital transactions, assistance to pregnant women and senior citizens, and priority to Dalits, tribals, backwards, and women under the Mudra Yojana. My overall approach while preparing this budget has been to spend more in rural areas, infrastructure, and poverty alleviation, and yet maintain the best standards of fiscal prudence. I have kept in mind the need to continue with economic reforms, promote higher investments, and accelerate growth. The last 1 year was a witness to other major reforms, namely the enactment of the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code, amendment to the RBI Act for inflation targeting, enactment of the Aadhaar Bill for disbursement of financial subsidies and benefits, significant reform in the FDI policy, the job-creating package for the textile sector, and several other measures. We will continue to process the process of economic reforms for the benefit of the poor and the underprivileged. Madam Speaker, the budget 2017-18 contains 3 major reforms. First, the presentation of the budget has been advanced to the 1st of February to enable the Parliament to avoid a vote on account and pass a single appropriation bill for 17-18 before the close of the current financial year. This would enable ministries and departments to operationalize all schemes, projects, including new schemes, right from the commencement of the next financial year. they would be able to utilize the available working season before the onset of the monsoons. Second, the merger of the railway budget with the general budget is a historic step. We have discontinued the colonial practice prevalent since 1924. This decision brings railways to the center stage of the government's fiscal policy and would facilitate multimodal transport planning between the railways, highways, and inland waterways. The functional autonomy of the railways will, however, continue. Third, we have done away with the plan and the non-plan classification of expenditure. This will give us a holistic view of allocation for sectors and ministries. This would facilitate optimal allocation of resources. Madam Speaker, we are aware that we need to do more for our people. Continuing with the task of fulfilling the people's expectations, our agenda for the next year is transform, energize, and clean India, that is Tech India. This agenda of Tech India seeks to transform the quality of governance and the quality of life of our people, energize various sections of society, especially the youth and the vulnerable, and enable them to unleash their true potential, clean the country from the evils of corruption, black money, and the non-transparent political funding. I propose to present my budget proposals under 10 distinct themes to foster this broad agenda. The themes are: 1. Farmers for whom we have committed to double their incomes in 5 years. 2. Rural population, providing employment and basic infrastructure. 3. Youth, energizing them through education, skills, and jobs. 4. Poor and the underprivileged, strengthening the system of social security, healthcare, and affordable housing. 5. Infrastructure for efficiency, productivity, and quality of life. 6. Financial sector, growth and stability through stronger institutions. 7. Digital economy for speedy accountability and transparency. 8. Public service, effective governance and efficiency of service delivery through people's participation. 9. Prudent fiscal management to ensure optimal deployment of resources and preserve financial stability. And 10. Tax administration, honoring the honest. Farmers. The Indian farmer has once again shown his commitment to the resilience in the current year. The total area sown under Kharif and Rabi seasons are higher than the previous year. With a better monsoon, agriculture is expected to grow at 4.1% in the current year. In last year's budget speech, I focused on income security to farmers to double their income in 5 years. I had also announced a number of measures. We have taken more steps to enable farmers to increase their production and productivity and to deal with the post-harvest challenges. For a good crop, adequate credit should be available to farmers in time. The target for agricultural credit in 2017 and 18 has been fixed at a record level of 10 lakh crores. इस साल मैडम 10 लाख करोड़ किसानों को क्रेडिट के रूप में उसका प्रावधान किया गया है. We will take special efforts to ensure adequate flow of credit to underserved areas, the eastern states and Jammu and Kashmir. The farmers will also benefit from the 60-day interest waiver announced by the Honorable Prime Minister in respect of their loans from the cooperative credit structure. About 40% of the small and marginal farmers avail credit from the cooperative structure. The primary agricultural societies at the end of the year, societies at the end of the year act as a front end for the loan disbursements. We will support NABARD for computerization and integration of 63,000 functional PACs with core banking support and district cooperative banks. This will be done in 3 years at an estimated cost of 1,900 crores with financial participation from the state governments. This will ensure seamless flow of credit to the small and marginal farmers. At the same time, sowing farmers should feel secure against the natural calamities. The Fasal Bima Yojana launched by our government is a major step in that direction. The coverage of the scheme will be increased from 30% of the cropped area in 2016-17 to 40% in 2017-18 and 50% in 18-19. The budget provision of rupees 5,500 crores in the Yojana in budget estimate of 2016 was increased to rupees 13,240 crores in 16-17 to settle the arrear claims. I have proposed a sum of rupees 9,000 crores. The sum insured under the Yojana has been more than doubled from 69,000 crores in the Kharif 2015 to 1,41,625 crores in the Kharif of 2016. Issuance of soil health cards has gathered momentum. The really available only when the soil samples are tested, quality and nutritional levels of soil is known. The government will therefore set up a mini lab in the Krishi Vigyan Kendras to ensure 100% coverage for all 648 KVKs in the country. In addition to 100 mini labs will be set up by qualified local entrepreneurs, government will provide credit-linked subsidy to these entrepreneurs. A long-term irrigation fund has been set up in the NABARD. The Honorable Prime Minister has announced in addition to 20,000 crores as its corpus. This will take the corpus of this fund now to 40,000 crores. A dedicated micro-irrigation fund will be set up by NABARD to achieve the goal of per drop more crop. The fund will have an initial corpus of rupees 5,000 crores. For the post-harvest phase, we will take steps to ensure that farmers to get better price for their produce in the markets. The coverage of the National Agricultural Market (NAM) will be expanded from the current 250 markets to 585 APMCs. Assistance up to a ceiling of 75 lakh rupees will be provided to every NAM market for establishment of cleaning, grading and packaging facility. This will lead to greater value addition of the farmers' produce. Market reforms will be undertaken and states would be urged to denotify perishables from the APMC. This will give an opportunity to the farmers to sell their produce and get a better price. We also propose to integrate farmers who grow fruits and vegetables with agro-processing units for a better price realization and reduction of post-harvest losses. A model law on contract farming would therefore be prepared and circulated amongst the states for adoption. Dairy is an important source of additional income on farmers. Availability of milk processing facility and other infrastructure will benefit the farmers through value addition. A number of milk processing units set up under the Operation Flood program have since become old and obsolete. A dairy processing infrastructure development fund would be set up by NABARD with a corpus of 8,000 crores over 3 years. Initially, the fund will start with a corpus of rupees 2,000 crores. Rural population. I now turn to the rural sector, which is so dear to the heart of Mahatma Gandhi. Over rupees 3 lakh crores are spent in rural areas every year. If we add all the programs meant for the rural poor by the central budget and the state budgets, budget linkage for self-help groups. With a clear focus on improving accountability and outcomes and convergence, we will undertake a mission Antyodaya to bring 1 crore households out of poverty and make 50,000 Gram Panchayats poverty-free by 2019, the 150th birth anniversary of Gandhiji. We will utilize the existing resources more effectively along with annual increases. This mission will work with a focused micro plan for sustainable livelihood for every deprived household. A composite index of poverty-free Gram Panchayat would be developed to monitor the progress from the baseline. Our government has made a conscious effort to reorient MG Manrega to support the resolve to double farmers' incomes, while providing at least 100 days employment to every rural household. Manrega should create productive assets to improve farm productivity and incomes. The target of 5 lakh ponds and 10 lakh composite pits announced in the last year budget from Manrega funds have been fully achieved. In fact, against 5 lakh ponds, it is expected that about 10 lakh farm ponds would be completed by March 2017. During 2017 and 18, another 5 lakh ponds would be taken up. The single measure would contribute greatly to drought proofing of the Gram Panchayats. Participation of women in Manrega has increased to 55% from less than 48% in the past. Honorable members would be happy to note that in the budget provisions of 38,500 under Manrega in 2016-17 has now been increased to rupees 48,000 crores in 2017 and 18. This is the highest ever allocation for Manrega.
10,000 crore.
पहले 40,000 अलॉट होता था और 29,000 खर्च होता था. अब 38,500 पिछली बार अलॉट हुआ, 47,000 खर्च हुआ और आने वाले साल में 48,000 होगा.
ये परंपरा नहीं है. You know better. This is not the method. This is not the way.
The initiative, sir, madam,
We are talking about the rural employment, not political unemployment.
the initiative to geotag all Manrega assets and putting them in public domain has established greater transparency. We are also using space technology in a big way to plan Manrega works. The Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is now being implemented as never before. The pace of construction of the PMGSY roads has accelerated to 133 kilometers road per day in 2016-17, as against an average of 73 kilometers per day during the period 2011-14. We have also taken the task of connecting habitations with more than 100 persons in the left-wing extremism affected blocks. We have committed to complete the current target of PMGSY by 2019. I have provided 19,000 crores in 2017-18 for this scheme. Together with the contribution of the states, an amount of 27,000 crores will be spent on PMGSY in 2017 and 18. We propose to complete 1 crore houses by 2019 for the houseless and those living in Kacha houses. I have stepped up the allocation for the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin from rupees 15,000 crore last year to rupees 23,000 crore in the next year. We are well on our way of achieving 100% village electrification by 1st May 2018. An increased allocation of rupees 4,814 crore has been proposed under the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana for 2017 and 18. I have also proposed to increase the allocation of the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission for promotion of skill development and livelihood opportunities for our people in the rural areas to 4,500 in 2017-18. The allocation of the Prime Minister's employment generation and credit support schemes has been increased more than 3 times. The Swachh Bharat Mission has made tremendous progress for promoting safe sanitation and ending open defecation. Sanitation coverage in rural areas has gone up from 42% in October 2014 to about 60% now. 18% बढ़ा है. Open defecation free villages are now being given priority for piped water supply. We propose to provide safe drinking water to cover 28,000 arsenic and fluoride affected habitations in the next 4 years. There will be a sub-mission for the National Rural Drinking Program. For imparting new skills to people in the rural areas, mason training will be provided to 5 lakh persons by 2022, with immediate target of training of at least 20,000 persons by 2017-18. Panchayat Raj institutions still lack the human resources for implementing the developmental programs. A program of human resource reforms for results will be launched in 2017-18 for this purpose. The government will continue to work closely with the farmers and the people in rural areas to improve the life and the environment. This is a non-negotiable agenda for our government. The total allocation for rural, agricultural and allied sectors for 2017-18 is a record 1,87,223 crores, which is 24% higher than the last year. Youth. Let me now focus my proposals on the youth. Quality education will energize our youth. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, the education which does not help the common mass of the people to equip them to struggle for life, is it worth the name? We have proposed to introduce a system of measuring annual learning outcomes in our schools. Emphasis will be given on science education and flexibility in curriculum to promote creativity through local innovative content. An innovation fund for secondary education will be created to encourage local innovation for ensuring universal access, gender parity and quality improvement. This will include an ICT-enabled transformation. The focus will be the 3,479 educationally backward blocks. In higher education, we will undertake reforms in the UGC. Good quality institutions would be enabled to have greater administration and academic autonomy. Colleges will be identified based on accreditation and ranking and given autonomous status. A revised framework will be put in place for outcome-based accreditation and credit-based programs. We propose to leverage information technology with the launch of Swayam platform with at least 350 online courses. This would enable students to virtually attend the courses taught by the best faculty, access higher quality reading resources, participate in discussion forums, and take tests and earn academic grades. Access to Swayam would be widened by the linkage with DTH channels dedicated to the education. We propose to establish a national testing agency as an autonomous and self-sustained premier testing organization to conduct all entrance exams for higher education. This would free the CBSE, AICTE and other premier institutions from these administrative responsibilities so that they can focus more on academics. We have a huge demographic advantage. Skill India mission launched in July 2015 to maximize the potential of our youth. The Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras have already been promoted in more than 60 districts. We now propose to extend these Kendras to more than 600 districts across the country. 100 India International Skill Centers will be established across the country. These centers would offer advanced training and also courses in foreign languages. This will help those youth of our country to seek job opportunities outside the country. In 2017-18, we have also proposed to launch the skill acquisition and knowledge awareness for livelihood promotion program Sankalp at a cost of rupees 4,000 crores. Sankalp will provide market relevant training to 3.5 crore youth. The next phase of skill strengthening for industrial value enhancement will be launched in 2017-18 at a cost of rupees 2,200 crores. Strive will focus to improve on the quality and the market relevance of vocational training provided in this. ITIs and provide in ITIs and strengthen the apprenticeship program through industry cluster approach. A special scheme for creating employment in the textile sector has already been launched. A similar scheme will be implemented for the leather and the footwear sector. Tourism is a big employment generator and has a multiplier impact on the economy. 5 special tourism zones anchored on SPV will be set up in partnership with the states. Incredible India 2nd campaign will be launched across the world. The poor and the unprivileged. Madam, I now turn my proposals to the poor and the unprivileged. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas begins with the girl child and the woman. Mahila Shakti Kendras will be set up at a village level with an allocation of rupees 500 crores in 14 lakh ICDS Anganwadi centers. This will provide a one-stop convergent support system for empowering rural women with opportunities for skill development, employment, digital literacy, health and nutrition. A nationwide scheme for financial assistance to pregnant women has already been announced by the Honorable Prime Minister on the 31st of December 2016. Under this scheme, rupees 6,000 each will be transferred directly to the accounts of pregnant women who undergo institutional delivery and vaccinate their children. For the welfare of women and children, under various schemes across ministries, I have stepped up the allocation from rupees 1,56,528 crores in the BE of 2016-17 to rupees 1,84,000 crores, 632 crores in 2017 and 18. We propose to facilitate higher investment in affordable housing, and affordable housing will now be given infrastructure status, which enables those projects to avail the associated benefits. The National Housing Bank will refinance individual housing loans of rupees 20,000 crores in 2017 and 18. Thanks to the surplus liquidity created by demonetization, the banks have already started reducing their lending rates, including those for housing. In addition, interest subvention for housing loans has been announced by the Honorable Prime Minister. Poverty is usually associated with poor health. It is the poor who suffer the maximum from various chronic diseases. Government has therefore prepared an action plan to eliminate Kala Azar and filariasis by 2017, leprosy by 2018, and measles by 2020. Elimination of tuberculosis by 2025 is also targeted. Similarly, action has been prepared to reduce the IMR from 39 in 2014 to 28 in 2019, MMR from 167 in 2011 to 13 to 100 by 2018-20. 1.5 lakh health sub-centers will be transformed into health wellness centers. We need to ensure adequate availability of specialist doctors to strengthen the secondary and the tertiary levels of health care. We have therefore decided to take steps to create an additional 5,000 postgraduate seats per annum. In addition, steps will also be taken to roll out the DNB courses in the big district hospitals, strengthen postgraduate training in the select ESI and municipal corporation hospitals, and encourage reputed private hospitals to start the DNB courses. We will work with the state government to take this task forward. The government is also committed to take necessary steps for structural transformation of the regulatory framework of the medical education and practice in India. 2 new All India Institute of Medical Sciences will be set up in the states of Jharkhand and Gujarat. We propose to amend the drugs and cosmetic rules to ensure availability of drugs at reasonable prices, to ensure the use of generic medicines. New rules regarding medical devices will be formulated. These rules will be internationally harmonized and attract investment into this sector. This will reduce the cost of such devices. We have been keen to foster a conducive labor environment wherein labor rights are protected and harmonious labor relations leads to higher productivity. Legislative reforms will be undertaken to simplify, rationalize and amalgamate existing labor laws into 4 codes: 1 wages, 2 industrial relations, 3 social security and welfare, and 4 safety and working conditions. The Model Shop and Establishment Bill 2016 has been circulated to all states for consideration and adoption. This would open up additional avenues of employment for women. The amendments made to the Payment of Wages Act is another initiative of our government for the benefit of the labor and the ease of doing business. Our government is committed. Our government is giving special importance to the implementation of schemes for the welfare of scheduled castes, scheduled tribe and minorities. The allocation of the scheduled caste has been stepped up from rupees 38,833 crores in the budget estimate of 2016-17 to 52,393. इससे मैडम 35% इंक्रीज एससी एलोकेशन का इस बजट में है. The allocation of scheduled tribes has been increased to 31,920 crores and minority affairs to 4,195 crores. The budget will introduce outcome-based monitoring of expenditure in these sectors by the Niti Aayog. For senior citizens, Aadhaar-based smart cards containing their health details will be introduced. A beginning will be made through the pilot in 15 districts during 2017-18. The LIC will be implement a scheme of senior citizens to provide an assured pension with a guaranteed return of 8% per annum for 10 years. The 5th component of the TEC agenda is infrastructure. Railways, roads and rivers are the lifeline of the country. I feel privileged to present the first combined budget of independent India that includes the railways also. We are now in a position to synergize the investment in railways, roads, waterways and civil aviation. For 2017-18, the total capital and development expenditure of railways has been pegged at 1,31,000 crores. This includes 55,000 crores provided by the government from the budget. Amongst other things, the railways will focus on 4 major areas. 1, passenger safety. 2, capital and development works. 3, cleanliness, and 4, financial and accounting reforms. For passenger safety, a rail Sanraksha Kosh will be created, a safety fund, with a corpus of rupees 1 lakh crores over a period of 5 years. Besides seed capital from the government, the railways will arrange the balance from its own resource avenues and other sources. The government will lay down clear-cut guidelines for timeline for implementation of various safety works to be funded from this course. Unmanned level crossings on broad gauge lines will be eliminated by 2020. Expert international assistance will be harnessed to improve safety preparedness and maintenance practices. In the next 3 years, throughout it is proposed to, the throughput is proposed to be enhanced by 10%. This will be done through modernization, upgradation of identified corridors. Railway lines of 3,500 kilometers will be commissioned in 2017-18 as against 2,800 kilometers in 16-17. Steps will be taken to launch dedicated trains of tourism and pilgrimage. Railways have put up joint ventures with 9 state governments. 70 projects have been identified for construction and development. A beginning has been made with regard to the station redevelopment. At least 25 stations are expected to be awarded during 17-18 for station redevelopment. 500 stations will be made differently abled friendly by providing lifts and escalators. It is proposed to feed around 7,000 stations with solar power in the medium term. A beginning has already been made in 300 stations. Work will be taken up for 2,000 railway stations as a part of the 1,000 megawatt solar mission. Our focus is on Swachh Railways. SMS-based Clean My Coach service has been started. It is now proposed to introduce a Coach Mitra facility, a single window interface to register all coach-related complaints and requirements. By 2019, all coaches of Indian Railways will be fitted with biotoilets. Pilot plants for environment-friendly disposal of solid waste and conversion of biodegradable waste and to energy are being set up at New Delhi and Jaipur railway stations. 5 more such solid waste management plants are now being taken up. Today, Indian Railways faces stiff competition from other modes of transport which are dominated by private sector modes of transportation. Transformative measures have to be undertaken to make Indian Railways competitive and to retain their position and preeminence. The following steps will therefore be taken. 1. Railways will implement end-to-end integrated transport solutions for selected commodities through partnership with logistic players who would provide both front and back-end connectivity. Rolling stock and practices will be customed to transport perishable goods, especially agricultural products. 2. Railways will offer competitive ticket booking facility to the public at large. Service charges on e-tickets booked through IRCTC will be withdrawn. Cashless reservations have gone up from 58% to 68%. As a part of accounting reforms, accrual-based financial statements will be rolled out by March 2019. It will now be our continuous endeavour to improve the operating ratio of the railways. The tariffs of the railways would be fixed taking into consideration costs, quality of service, social obligation and competition from other forms of transport. Metro rail is emerging as an important mode of urban transportation. A new metro rail policy will be announced with focus on innovative models of implementation and financing, as well as standardization and indigenization of hard work and software. This will open up new job opportunities for our youth. A new Metro Rail Act has been enacted by rationalizing the existing laws. This will facilitate greater private participation and investment in construction and operation. In the road sector, I have stepped up the budget allocation for the national highways from 57,676 crores in the BE of 16-17 to 64,000 crores in 2017-18. 2,000 kilometers of coastal connectivity roads have been identified for construction and development. This will facilitate better connectivity with ports and remote villages. The total length of roads, including those under the PMGSY, built from 2014-15 till the current year is about 1,40,000 kilometers, which is significantly higher than the previous 3 years. An effective multimodal logistics and transport system will make our economy more competitive. A specific program for development of multimodal logistic parks together with multimodal transport facilities will be drawn up and implemented. Selected airports in Tier 2 cities will be taken up for operation and management in the PPP mode. Airport Authority of India Act will be amended to enable effective monetization of land assets. The resources so raised will be utilized for airport upgradation. For the transport sector as a whole, including railways, road, shipping, I have provided rupees 2,41,387 crores in 2017-18. The magnitude of investment will spur a huge amount of economic activity in the country and create more job opportunities. Telecom sector is an important component of our infrastructure system. The recent spectrum auctions have removed the spectrum scarcity in the country. This will give a major fillip to mobilize broadband and digital India for the benefit of people living in rural and remote areas. Under the BharatNet project, OFC has been laid in 1,55,000 kilometers. I have stepped up the allocation of BharatNet project to rupees 10,000 crores in 17-18. By the end of 17-18, high-speed broadband connectivity on optic fiber will be available in more than 1,50,000 gram panchayats with a hotspot and access to digital services at low tariffs. A DigiGaon initiative will be launched to provide telemedicine, education and skills through digital technology. For strengthening our energy, decided to set up strategic crude oil reserves. In the first phase, 3 such reserve facilities have been set up. Now in the second phase, it is proposed to set up caverns at 2 more locations, namely Chandiakahol in Odisha and Bikaner in Rajasthan. This will take our strategic reserves capacity to 15.33 MMT. In solar energy, we now propose to take up the second phase of solar power development for additional 20,000 megawatt capacity. We are also creating an ecosystem to make India a global hub for electronics manufacture. Over 250 investment proposals for electronic manufacturers have been received in the last 2 years, totaling an investment of rupees 1,26,000 crores. A number of global leaders and mobile manufacturers have set up production facilities in India. I have therefore exponentially increased the allocation and incentives of schemes like MSIPs and EDF to 745 crores in 17-18. This is an all-time high. We have also to focus on our export infrastructure in the competitive world. A new restructured central scheme, namely the Trade Infrastructure Export Scheme, will be launched in 17-18. The total allocation, Madam, ये महत्व का विषय है, the total allocation for infrastructure for 2017-18 stands at a record level of rupees 3,96,135 crores. Financial sector. I now turn to the financial sector. The focus of the TEC India agenda in this sector is to build a stable and stronger institution. We will continue with our reform agenda with several measures. The government has already undertaken substantive reforms in FDI policy in the last 2 years. More than 90% of the total FDI inflows are now proposed through the automatic route. The FIPB, the Foreign Investment Promotion Board, has successfully implemented e-filing and online processing of FDI applications. We have now reached a stage where FIPB can be phased out. We have therefore decided to abolish the FIPB in the year 2017-18. A roadmap for the same will be announced in the next few months. In the meanwhile, further liberalization of the FDI policy is under consideration and necessary announcements will be made in due course. The commodities markets requires further reforms for the benefits of the farmers. An expert committee will be constituted to study and promote creation of operational and legal framework to integrate spot market and derivative market for commodity trading. ENAM would be the integral part of such framework. A draft bill to curtail the menace of illegal deposit schemes has been placed in public domain and will be introduced shortly after its finalization. There is an urgent need to protect the poor and the gullible investor from another set of dubious schemes created by unsuccessful unscrupulous entities who exploit the regulatory gaps in the Multi-State Cooperative Society Act of 2002. We will amend the Act in consultation with various stakeholders as a part of our Clean India agenda. The bill relating to resolution of financial firms will be introduced in the current budget session of Parliament. This will contribute stability and resilience to our financial system. It will also protect consumers of various financial institutions. Together with the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code, a resolution mechanism for financial firms will ensure a comprehensiveness of the resolution system in our country. I had stated in my budget speech last year that a bill would be introduced to streamline institutional arrangement for the resolution of disputes in infrastructure-related construction contracts, PPP and public utility contracts. After extensive stakeholder consideration, we have decided that the required mechanism would be institutionalized as a part of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. An amendment bill will be shortly introduced in this regard. Cyber security is critical for safeguarding the integrity and stability of the financial system. A computer emergency response team of our financial sector will be established. This entity will ensure work in close coordination with the financial sector regulators and other stakeholders. I have proposed several other measures which are in the financial sector which are given as an annexure to this budget. Listing of public sector enterprises will foster public accountability and unlock the true value of these companies. The government will put in place a revised mechanism and procedure to ensure time-bound listing of identified CPSEs on the stock exchanges. The divestment policy announced by me in the last budget would continue. The shares of railway PSEs like IRCTC, IRFC and IRCON would be listed on various stock exchanges. We seek opportunities to strengthen our CPSEs through consolidation, merger and acquisition. By these methods, CPSEs can be integrated across the value chain of an industry. It will give them capacity to bear high risk avail economies of scale, take higher investment decisions and create more value for stakeholders. Possibilities of such restructuring are visible in the oil and gas sector. We propose to create an integrated public sector oil major which will be able to match the performance of the international and domestic private sector and oil and gas companies. Our ETF comprising of shares of 10 CPSEs has received an overwhelming response in the recent further funding offering. We will continue to use the ETF as a vehicle for further divestment of shares. Accordingly, a new ETF with diverse CPSEs, stocks and other government holding will be launched in 2017-18. The focus of resolution of stressed legacy accounts of banks continues. The legal framework has been strengthened to facilitate resolution through enactment of the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code and the amendments to the Sarfazi and the DRT Acts. In line with the Indradhanush roadmap, I have provided another rupees 10,000 crores for recapitalization of banks. Additional allocations will be made if required. Listing and trading of security receipts issued by securitization companies and a reconstruction company under the Sarfazi Act will be permitted in the SEBI registered stock exchanges. This will enhance capital flows into securitization industry and will particularly be helpful to deal with bank NPAs. The Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana has contributed significantly to the funding of the unfunded and the underfunded. Last year, the target was rupees 1,22,000 crores was exceeded. For 2017-18, I now propose to double the lending target and set it up at rupees 2.44 lakh crores. Priority will be given to Dalits, tribals, backward minorities and women. The Stand Up India scheme will be launched by the government in April to support Dalit tribal and women entrepreneurs to set up greenfield enterprises and job creators. Over 16,000 new enterprises have come up through this scheme in activities as diverse as food processing, garments, diagnostic centers, etc. Promotion of digital economy is an integral part of government strategy to clean up the system and weed out corruption and black money. It has a transformational impact in terms of greater formalization of our economy and mainstreaming of our financial system into the banking system. This in turn is expected to energize private investment in the country through lower cost of credit. India is now at the cusp of a massive digital revolution. A shift to digital platform has huge benefits to the common man. The earlier initiative of our government to promote financial inclusion and JAM Trinity were important precursors to our current push for digital transactions. Already there is evidence of an increased digital transaction. The Bheem app has been launched. It will unleash the power of mobile phones for digital payments and financial inclusion. 125 lakh people have adopted the Bheem app so far. The government will launch 2 new schemes to promote the use of Bheem. These are referral bonus schemes for individual and a cashback scheme for merchants. Aadhaar Pay, a merchant version of Aadhaar-enabled payment system, will be launched shortly. This will especially be beneficial to those who do not have debit cards, mobile wallets or mobile phones. A mission will be set up with a target of 2,500 crore digital transactions for 2017 and 18 through UPI, USD, Aadhaar Pay, IMPS debit cards. Banks have targeted to introduce additional 10 lakh new POS terminals by March 2017. They will be encouraged to introduce 20 lakh Aadhaar-based POS by September 2017. Increased digital transactions will enable small and micro enterprises to access formal credit. Government will encourage SIDBI to refinance credit institutions which provide unsecured loans at reasonable rates to borrowers based on their transaction history. The digital payment infrastructure and grievance handling system shall be strengthened. The focus will be on rural and semi-urban areas through post office, fair price shops and banking correspondence. Steps would be taken to promote and possibly mandate petrol pumps, fertilizer depots, municipalities, block offices, road transport offices, universities, colleges, hospitals and other institutions to have facilities for digital payment, including the Bheem app. A proposal to mandate all government received through digital means beyond a prescribed limit is under consideration. The government will strengthen the Financial Inclusion Fund to augment resources for taking up these initiatives. Government will consider and work with various stakeholders for early implementation of the interim recommendations of the Committee of the Chief Ministers on Digital Transactions. The Committee on Digital Payments, constituted by the Department of Economic Affairs, has recommended structural reforms in the payment and ecosystem, including amendments to the Payment and Settlements System Act 2007. Government will undertake a comprehensive review of this Act and bring about an appropriate amendment. To begin with, it is proposed to create a payment regulatory board in the Reserve Bank of India by replacing the existing Board of Regulation and Supervision of the Payment and Settlement Systems. Necessary amendments are proposed to this effect in the Finance Bill 2017. As we move faster towards the path of digital transaction and check payment, we need to ensure that payees of dishonored checks are able to realize their payments. Therefore, government is considering the option of amending the Negotiable Instruments Act suitably. I now turn to public service. Our focus here is on effective government and efficient service delivery. We have made a strong beginning with regard to the direct benefit transfer to the LPG and the kerosene consumers. Chandigarh and 8 districts of Haryana have become kerosene free. 84 government schemes have been boarded on the DBT platform. The government's e-marketplace, which is now functional for procurement of goods and services, has been selected as one of the winners of the South Asian Procurement Innovation Awards of the World Bank. Our citizens in far-flung regions of the country find it difficult to obtain passports and redress passport-related grievances. We have decided to utilize the head post office as a front office for rendering passport service. Our defense forces keep the country safe from both external and internal threats. A centralized defense travel system has now been developed through which travel tickets can be booked online by our soldiers and officers. They do not have to face the hassle of standing in a queue with the railway warrant. A comprehensive web-based interactive pension distribution system for defense pensioners will be established. This system will receive pension proposals and make payments centrally. This will reduce the grievance of the defense pensioners. At present, our citizens, especially those belonging to the poor and unprivileged society, go through cumbersome procedures of government recruitment. There are multiplicity of agencies and examinations. We therefore propose to introduce a system of registration and a 2-tier system of examination. Over the years, the number of tribunals have multiplied with overlapping functions. We propose to rationalize the number of tribunals by merging tribunals wherever appropriate. In the recent past, there have been instances of big-time offenders. And Madam, this is an important announcement. In the recent past, there have been instances of big-time offenders, including economic offenders, fleeing the country to escape the reach of law. We have to ensure that the law is allowed to take its course. Government is therefore considering introduction of legislative changes and even a new law to confiscate the assets of such persons located within the country till they submit to the jurisdiction of the appropriate legal forum. Needless to say, all necessary constitutional safeguards will be followed in this regard. Our government will continue to remain committed to improve the standards of public service and transparent governance. Service to the people was a lifelong commitment of the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. As we approach the 150th birth anniversary of the Mahatma, we will take steps to celebrate it in a befitting manner. A high-level committee under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister is proposed to be set up for the same. We also will commemorate a centenary year of the Champaran Satyagraha this year. Government of India will support the government of Gujarat to commemorate the 100 years of the Sabarmati Ashram in 2017 in a befitting manner. 200 years ago, in 1817, a valiant uprising of the soldiers led by Bakshi Jagabandhu took place in Khorda of Orissa. We will commemorate the same appropriately. I now turn to the fiscal situation in the country in the context of the budget 2017-18. The total expenditure of the budget 2017-18 has been placed at rupees 21,47,000 crores. With the abolition of the planned, non-planned classification of expenditure, the focus is now on revenue and capital expenditure. I have stepped up the allocation of capital expenditure by 25.4% over the previous year. This will have a multiplier effect and lead to higher growth. The total resources being transferred to the states and the union territories with legislature is rupees 4.11 lakh crores as against 3.6 lakh crores in the BE of 2016-17. Details of allocations for important sectors and schemes and transfer resources to the states are given in an annexure to my speech. I have made a provision of rupees 3,000 crores under the Department of Economic Affairs to implement various budget announcements and other new schemes for 2017-18. For defense expenditure, excluding pensions, I have provided, I repeat, for defense expenditure excluding pensions, I have provided a sum of rupees 2,74,114 crores, including 86,488 crores for defense capital. I have increased the allocation for scientific ministries to rupees 37,435 crores in 2017-18. For the first time, a consolidated outcome budget covering all ministry departments is being laid along with other budget documents. This will improve the accountability of the government expenditure. The FRBM Review Committee has given its report recently. The committee has done an elaborate exercise and has recommended that sustainable debt path must be the principal macroeconomic anchor of our fiscal policy. The committee has favored a debt to GDP of 60% for the general government by 2023, consisting 40% for the central government and 20% for the state governments. Within the framework, the committee has derived and recommended 3% fiscal deficit for the next 3 years. The committee has also provided for an escape clauses for deviations up to 0.5% of the GDP from the stipulated fiscal deficit target. Amongst the triggers for taking recourse to these escape clauses, the committee has included far-reaching structural reforms in the economy with an unanticipated fiscal implication as one of the factors. Although there is a strong case now to invoke this escape clause, I am refraining from doing so. The report of the committee will be carefully examined and appropriate decision taken in due course. Nevertheless, I take note of the fiscal deficit roadmap of 3% recommended by the committee for the next 3 years. I have taken into consideration the need for higher public expenditure in the context of sluggish private sector investment and slow global growth. I have kept in mind the recommendations of the committee that sustainable debt should be the underlying basis of prudent fiscal management. Considering all these aspects, I have pegged the fiscal deficit for 2017-18 at 3.2% of the GDP and remain committed to achieve 3% in the following year. With this gradual approach, I have ensured adherence to fiscal consolidation without compromising with the requirements of public investment. I have taken due care to limit the net market borrowings of the government to rupees 3.48 lakh crores after buyback much lower than rupees 4.25 lakh crores of the previous year. More importantly, the revenue deficit of 2.3% in the budget estimate of 2016-17 now stands reduced to 2.1% in the revised estimates. The revenue deficit for the next year is pegged at 1.9% as against 2% pegged in the FRBM Act. It will be our endeavor to improve upon the fiscal numbers, especially the fiscal deficit in the next year, through greater focus on quality expenditure and higher tax realization through huge cash deposits in banks triggered by demonetization. Madam Speaker, I shall now present my tax proposals. India's tax to GDP ratio is very low, and the proportion of direct tax to indirect tax is not optimal from a point of view of social justice. I place before you certain data to indicate that our direct tax collection is not commensurate with the income and expenditure pattern of Indian economy. As against an estimated 4.2 crore people engaged in the organized sector employment, the number of individuals filing returns for salary income is only rupees 1.74 crores. As against 5.6 crore informal sector enterprises and firms doing business in India, the number of returns filed in this category are only 1.81 crores. Out of 13.94 lakh companies registered up to 31st March 2014, 5.97 companies have filed their return for assessment year 2016-17. Of 5.97 lakh companies which have filed their return for assessment year 2016-17, as many as 2.76 lakh companies show losses or zero income. 2.85 lakh companies have shown profit before tax less than 1 crores. 28,667 companies have shown profit between 1 to 10 crores, and only 7,781 companies have shown profit before tax more than 10 crores. Now, individuals. From amongst 3.7 crore individuals who filed tax returns in the year 2015-16, 99 lakhs showed income below the exemption limit of 2.5 lakhs. 1.95 crore show income between 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs. 52 lakhs show income between 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, and only 24 lakh people show income above 10 lakhs. Thus, out of 76 lakh individual assessee who declare income above 5 lakh, 56 lakhs are in the salaried class. यानी 76 लाख लोग 5 लाख से अधिक इनकम डिस्क्लोज करते हैं साल की, जिसमें से 56 लाख वेतनभोगी हैं, बाकी सिर्फ 20 लाख हैं व्यापार, व्यवसाय, प्रोफेशनल सब मिला के. The number of people showing income more than 50 lakhs in the entire country is only 1.72 lakhs. We contrast this that in the last 5 years, more than 1.25 crore cars have been sold. And the number of Indian citizens who traveled abroad, either for business or tourism, was 2 crores in the year 2015. From all these figures, we can conclude that we are largely a tax non-compliant society. The predominance of cash in our economy makes it possible for people to evade taxes. When too many people evade taxes, the burden of their share falls on those who are honest and tax compliant. After demonetization, the preliminary analysis of the data received in respect of deposits made in the old currency presents a revealing picture. During the period 8th November to 30th December 2016, deposit between rupees 2 lakhs and 80 lakhs was made in 1.09 crore bank accounts. And that was an average deposit of rupees 5.03 lakhs. Deposits of more than 80 lakhs was made in 1.48 lakh bank accounts. That the average size of the deposit was 3.31 crores. This data mining will help us immensely in expanding the tax net as well as increasing the revenues, which was one of the objects of demonetization. Madam Speaker, one of our main priorities of our government is to eliminate black money component from the economy. We are committed to make our taxation rates reasonable, our tax administration more fair, and expand the tax base of the country. This approach will change the color of money. नई दुनिया है, नया दौर है, नई है उमंग. नई दुनिया है, नया दौर है, नई है उमंग. कुछ थे पहले के तरीके तो कुछ हैं आज के रंग ढंग. रोशनी आके अंधेरों से जो टकराई है, काले धन को भी बदलना पड़ा आज अपना रंग. The net tax revenue of 2013-14 was 11.38 lakh crores. This grew by 9.4% in 14-15 and 7-16. As against an RE of 2016-17, we will end the year with a higher growth rate of 17% for the second year in a row. 2 साल लगातार 17% increase है. Because of serious efforts made by the government, the rate of growth in advance tax, in personal income tax, in the last 3 quarters of the current financial year is as high as 34.8%. मैडम, ये डिमोनेटाइजेशन का भी असर है कि पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स लोगों को ज्यादा डिस्क्लोज करना पड़ रहा है. 34.8% इंक्रीज इस देश के इतिहास में कभी नहीं हुआ. Madam Speaker, the thrust of my tax proposal in this budget is to stimulate growth, relief to the middle class, affordable housing, curb black money, promote digital economy, bring transparency in political funding, and simplification of tax administration. Measures for promoting affordable housing in the real estate sector. In my budget proposals last year, I had announced a scheme for profit-linked income tax exemption for promoters of affordable housing scheme, which has received a very good response. However, in order to make this scheme more attractive, I propose certain changes in the scheme. First of all, instead of a built-up area of 30 and 60 square meters, the carpet area of 30 and 60 square meters will now be counting. इससे 30% size बढ़ जाता है affordable housing का. Also, the 30 square meter will apply only in case of municipal limits of 4 metropolitan cities, while the rest of the country, including the peripheral areas of metros, limit of 60 square kilometers will apply. In order to be eligible, the scheme 60 square meter, I'm sorry, I stand corrected, 50 meters will apply. In order to be eligible, this scheme was to be completed in 3 years after commencement. I now propose to extend it to 5 years. At present, the houses which are unoccupied after getting a completion certificate are subject to tax at a notional rental income. For builders for whom constructed buildings are stock in trade, I propose to apply this rule only after 1 year at the end of the year when the completion certificate is received, so that they can get some breathing time for liquidating their inventory. We also propose to make a number of changes in the capital gain tax provision in respect of land and building. The holding period for considering gain from immovable property will be in the long term is 3 years. This is now proposed to be reduced to 2 years. After the base year for indexation is now proposed to be shifted from 1/4/81 to 1/4/2001 for all classes of assets, including immovable property. This move will significantly reduce the capital gains tax liability while encouraging mobility of assets. We also plan to extend the basket of financial instruments to which the capital gains can be invested without payment of tax. For joint development agreements signed by the development of property, the liability to pay capital gains tax will arise only in the year the project is completed. The new state capital for the state of Andhra Pradesh is being constructed by an innovative land pooling mechanism without use of the Land Acquisition Act. I propose to exempt capital gains tax persons holding land from 2/6/14, the date on which the state of Andhra was reorganized and whose land is pooled for the creation of capital city under the government scheme. A concessional withholding rate of 5% is being charged on interest earned by foreign entities in the external commercial borrowings or in the bonds in government securities. This concession is available till 30th June 2017. I propose to extend it till 30th June 2020. This benefit is also extended to the rupee denominated masala bonds. The government gave income tax exemption to startups with certain conditions last year. For the purpose of carrying forward losses in respect of such startups with conditions, continuous holding of 51% of voting rights has been relaxed, subject to the condition that holding of original promoters continues. Also, the profit-linked deduction available to startups for 3 years out of 5 years is now being changed to 3 years out of 7 years. Minimum alternative tax is at present levied on advance tax. There is a strong demand for abolition of MAT. Although the plan for phasing out exemptions will kick in from 1/4/2017, the full benefit of revenue out of the phase out will be available to government only after 7 to 10 years, when all those who are already availing exemptions at present complete their period of availment. Therefore, it is not practical to remove MAT at present. However, in order to allow companies to use MAT credit in future, I propose to allow a carry forward of MAT for a period of 15 years instead of 10 years at present. In my budget proposals of 2015, I had announced that I would bring down corporate rate down to 25% gradually. In budget 2016, I had announced a reduction by 1% in the case of those companies whose turnover was less than 5 crores. In the same budget, I had also announced that new manufacturing companies which do not avail any exemption could be charged only 25%. Medium and small enterprises occupy the bulk of economic activity and are also instrument in providing maximum employment to people. However, since they do not get many exemptions, they end up paying more taxes as compared to large companies. As per data of the financial year 2015-16, 2.85 lakh companies making a profit of less than 1 crore, effective tax rate was 30.26, while 298 companies making a profit of 500 crores pay an effective rate of only 25.90. In order to make MSME companies more viable and to encourage firms to migrate to the company format, I propose to reduce income tax for smaller companies with an annual turnover up to 50 crores to 25%. तो जितनी भी कंपनीज 50 करोड़ तक की टर्नओवर है उनका 5% टैक्स कम किया जाएगा. As per the data of assessment year 2015-16, there are 6.94 lakh companies filing returns, out of which 6.67 lakh companies fall in this category. Therefore, percentage-wise, 96% of India's companies will get the benefit of this lower taxation. This will make our MSME sector more competitive as compared to larger companies. The revenue foregone in this measure is expected to be 7,200 crore per annum. In order to give a boost to the banking sector, I propose to increase allowable provisions of non-performing assets from 7.5% to 8.5%. This will reduce the tax liability of banks. I also propose to tax interest receivable on actual receipts instead of accrual basis in respect of NPA accounts of all non-scheduled banks. Cooperative banks also at par with scheduled banks. This will remove hardship of having to pay tax even when interest income is not realized. Considering the wide range of the LNG as a fuel as well as a feedstock for petrochemical sector, I propose to reduce the basic customs duty on LNG from 5% to 2.5%. In order to incentivize domestic value addition and promote Make in India, I propose to make changes in the custom and central excise duties in respect of certain items which are given in the annexure of my speech. Some of the problems addressing the issue of duty inversion. There are promoting digital economy. There is a scheme of presumptive taxation for small and medium taxpayers whose turnover is up to rupees 2 crores. At present, 8% of their turnover is counted as presumptive income. I propose to make this 6% in respect of a turnover which is received by non-cash means. The benefits will also be applicable for transactions undertaken in the current year also. I propose to limit the cash expenditure allowable as deduction both for revenue as well as capital expenditure to 10,000 rupees. Similarly, the limit of cash donation which can be received by a charitable trust is being reduced from rupees 10,000 to 2,000. The special investigating team set up by the government for black money has suggested no transaction above 5 lakhs, The special investigative team set up by the government for black money has suggested that no transaction above rupees 3 lakhs should be permitted in cash. The government has decided to accept this suggestion. Suitable amendment in the Income Tax Act is proposed in the finance bill for enforcing this decision. To promote cashless transaction, I propose to exempt BCD excise duties, CV duty, SAD on miniaturized POS card readers, and MPOS micro ATM standards for version 1.5.1, fingerprint readers, scanners, and iris scanners. Simultaneously, I propose to exempt parts of components of manufacture for such devices so as to encourage the domestic manufacturing of these items. My next item, Madam, concerns all of us. It deals with transparency in political funding. India is the world's largest democracy. Political parties are essential ingredient of a multi-party democracy. Even 70 years after independence, the country has not been able to evolve a transparent method of funding political parties, which is vital to the system of free and fair elections. An attempt was made in the past by amending the provisions of Representation of People's Act, the Companies Act and the Income Tax Act to incentivize donations to individual partnership firms, HUF and companies to political parties. Both the donor and the donee were granted exemption from payment of tax if the accounts were transparently maintained and returns were filed with the competent authorities. Additionally, a list of donors who contributed more than rupees 2,000 to any party in cash or check was required to be maintained. 20,000 by who donated 20,000 to any party in cash or check was to be maintained. The situation has only marginally improved since these provisions were brought into force. Political parties continue to receive most of their funds through anonymous donations, which are shown in cash. An effort, therefore, requires to be made to cleanse the system of political funding in India. Donors have also expressed reluctance in donating by check and other transparent methods, as it would disclose their identity and entail adverse consequences. I therefore propose the following system as an effort to cleanse the system of funding of political parties. A. In accordance with the suggestion made by the Election Commission, the maximum amount of cash donation that a political party can receive will be 2,000 from any one source. B. Political parties will be entitled to receive donations by check or in the digital mode from their donors. C. As an additional step, an amendment is being proposed to the Reserve Bank of India Act to enable the issuance of electoral bonds in accordance with a scheme that the Government of India would frame in this regard. Under this scheme, a donor could purchase bonds from authorized banks against checks and digital payment only. These would be redeemable only in the designated account of a registered political party. These bonds will be redeemable within a prescribed time from the issuance of the bond. Every political party would have to file its returns within the time prescribed in accordance with the provisions of the Income Tax Act. Needless to say, the existing amendments to political parties from payment of income tax would be available only subject to the fulfillment of the above conditions. This reform will bring greater transparency and accountability in the political funding while preventing future generation of black money. Ease of doing business. As an anti-avoidance measure, the provision of domestic transfer pricing in respect of related entities was brought in by the Finance Act 2012. Since the number of entities being covered under the domestic pricing has gone up substantially, necessitated a longer scrutiny, which causes hardship to domestic companies. In order to reduce the compliance burden due to the domestic transfer pricing provision, I propose to restrict the scope of domestic transfer pricing only if one of the entities involved is a related party transaction enjoying specified profit-linked deduction. I propose to increase the threshold limit for audit of business entities who opt for presumptive income scheme from 1 crore to 2 crores. Similarly, the threshold for maintenance of books of individuals and HUF is being increased from a turnover of rupees 10 lakhs to 25 lakhs or income from 1.2 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs. In 2012, the Income Tax Act was amended to provide for taxation of those transactions for transfer of shares or interests in foreign entity deriving its value substantially from Indian assets. Apprehensions have been raised about some difficulties which are arising because of the provisions in the case of transfer of stake of investors of India-based funds located abroad but investing in India-based companies. In order to remove difficulties, I propose to exempt foreign portfolio investors category 1 and 2 from indirect transfer provisions. I also propose to issue a clarification that indirect transfer provision shall not apply in the case of redemption of shares or interests outside India as a result or arising out of the redemption of sale or investment in India, which is chargeable to a tax in India. As of today, a TDS of 5% is deducted from the commission payable to individual insurance agents, even if their income of some of them is well below the taxable limit. I propose to exempt them from the requirement of TDS, subject to the filing of their filing a self-declaration that their income is below taxable limits. Last year, I had announced a new scheme for presumptive taxation of professionals with a receipt of 550 lakh per annum. In respect of such assessees, they are being given the benefit in terms of payment of advance tax in one installment instead of 4. In order to allow people to claim refund of expeditiously, the time period of revising a tax return is being reduced to 12 months from the completion of the financial year at par with the time period of filing the return. At the same time, completion of scrutiny assessment is being compressed further from 21 months to 18 months for the assessment year 18-19 and 12 months for the assessment year 19-20. I now come to an important change in the personal income tax. While the government is trying to bring within its tax net more people who are evading taxes, the present burden of taxation is mainly on the taxpayer and the salaried employees who are showing their income correctly. Therefore, post-demonetization, there is a legitimate expectation of this class of people to reduce their burden of taxation. Also, an argument is made that if nominal rate of taxation is kept at a lower slab, more people will prefer to come within the tax rate. I therefore propose to reduce the existing rate of taxation for individual assessees between the income 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs to 5% instead of the present rate of 10%. This would reduce the tax liability of all persons below rupees 5 lakhs income either to zero with a rebate or 50% of their existing liability. In order not to have any duplication of benefit, the existing benefit of rebate available to the same group of beneficiaries being reduced to 2,500 available only if to the assessees with income up to 3.5 lakhs. The combined effect of both these measures will mean that there would be a zero tax liability for a person getting income up to 3 lakh rupees and a tax liability of only 2,500 for people with an income of 3 to 3.5 lakhs. If limit of rupees 1.5 lakhs under section 80C investment is used fully, tax would be zero for people with an income up to rupees 4.5 lakhs. While taxation liability of people with income up to 5 lakhs is being reduced to half, all other categories of taxpayers in the subsequent brackets will also get a uniform benefit of 12,500 per person. The total amount of tax foregone on this account of measure is therefore 15,500 crores. In order to make good some loss of revenue on account of this relief, I propose to levy a surcharge of 10% of tax payable on this category of individual whose annual taxable income is between 50 lakhs and 1 crore. The existing surcharge of 15% on people earning more than 1 crore will continue. This is likely to give me an additional revenue of rupees 2,700 crores. In order to expand the tax net, I plan to have a simple one-page form to be filed as an income tax return in the category of income individuals having a taxable income up to rupees 5 lakh other than business income. Also, a person of this category who files an income tax return for the first time would not be subject to any scrutiny for the first year unless there is some specific information available with the department with regard to any high-value transaction. I appeal to all citizens of India to contribute to national building by making a small payment of 5% of tax if their income falls in the lowest slab of 2.5%, 2 lakhs to rupees 5 lakhs. Some other important amendments in the tax laws which are not covered in my speech are given in Annexure 3 to this budget. There has been a substantial progress towards ushering the GST, by far the biggest tax reform since independence. Since the enactment of the Constitution 101st Amendment Act 2016, the preparatory work of the path-breaking reform has been a top priority for the government. In this context, several teams of officers, both of the state and the Central Board of Excise and Customs, have been working tirelessly to give finishing touches to the model GST law and the rules and other details. Government on its part has promptly given effect to various provisions of the Constitution Amendment, including constitution of the GST Council. Since then, the GST Council has had 9 meetings to discuss the various issues relating to the GST, including the broad contours of the GST tax rate, threshold exemption, and parameters for the composition of details of compensation to the states due to implementation of the GST, examination of the draft model GST law, draft IGST law, and the compensation law and the administrative mechanism for the GST. It is my privilege to inform the August House that the GST Council has finalized its recommendation on almost all issues based on consensus and after a spirited debate and discussion. The preparedness of the IT system of the GST is also on schedule. The extensive reach-out effort to the trade and industry will start on the 1st of April 2017 to make them aware of the new taxation system. Through the Central Board of Excise and Customs, shall continue to strive to achieve the goal of implementation of the GST as per schedule without compromising the spirit of cooperative federalism. Implementation of the GST is likely to bring more taxes both to the centre and the state because of widening of the tax net. I have preferred not to make many changes in the current regime of excise and service tax because they are to be replaced by the GST very soon. In the annual conclave of tax officers called Rajastha Gyana Sangam, held in June 2016, the Prime Minister had expressed his desire to bring reforms in the tax administration in the approach of RAPID, which stands for Revenue Accountability, Probity, Information and Digitization. This approach precisely reflects the strategy of the tax department, which it has now formulated. For revenue considerations always remain the focus of the revenue department. We are trying to bring the maximum use of information technology to remove the human contact with the assessee, as well as to plug tax avoidance. We will try and minimize our efforts for e-assessments we will try and maximize our efforts for e-assessment in the coming year. We are also using a lot of data mining capability, both in-house and outsourced. We plan to enforce greater accountability on the officers of the tax department for specific acts of commission and omission. I would like to assure that the honest tax compliant would be treated with dignity and courtesy. Madam, my tax proposals for the exemptions would result in a loss of rupees 22,700 crores, but after counting the revenue gain of rupees 2,700 crores for additional resource mobilization, the net revenue loss in direct tax could be 20,000 crores. There is no significant loss or gain on account of my indirect tax proposals. Madam Speaker, I have outlined in the budget proposals under an overarching agenda, transform, energize and clean India. Our emphasis will now be on implementing all these proposals for the benefit of farmers and the poor and the underprivileged sections of our society. Madam Speaker, it is said, when my aim is right, when my goal is in sight, the winds favor me and I fly. There is no other day which is more appropriate for this than today. With these words, Madam, I commend the budget to this Honourable House.
Yes, Minister, table the statement. Item number 2. Yes. Lay the table. Statement.
Madam, I rise to lay on the table of the House the following statements under Section 3 of the Fiscal Responsibility and the Budget Management Act 2003, Macroeconomic Framework Statement, Medium-Term Fiscal Policy Statement and Fiscal Policy Strategy Statement.
Yes. Now, introduce the finance.
Madam, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2017.
The question is that leave be granted to introduce the Finance Bill 2017. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The leave is granted. The minister may now introduce the Finance.
Madam, I introduce the bill.
Yes, thank you. Now, House stands adjourned to meet again on Friday, the 3rd February 2017 at 11 a.m.